I'm Lisa Kazbour. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about health and wellness at work. So wellness is something that's kind of taking off right now, right? A lot of companies are getting into it. They're interested in it. They're starting to see some of the logistics behind it. So I want to bring a little bit of behavioral science into it and talk about what the science has to say about some of our current efforts and thinking. Let's start out what you're all interested in is what's the ROI on wellness? Why even think about having a wellness program? The truth is there's a lot. Well-done wellness programs can get somewhere up to the upwards of 6-to-1 ROI. That's impressive. I want my investments to have a 6-to-1 return. That's very impressive. Some that aren't run well don't do as well. The key is to find one that's a good one, an evidence-based one. I think the coolest thing about some of this stuff, though, is the side effects you get from the wellness program. So the money back, that's great. But the side effects that come along with wellness programs are really cool. You get things like a better culture. You get people reporting being happier at work. We like that. When you have people who are happier and like being at work, you get that thing we call discretionary effort. It's the gold, right? Another really cool side effect, you get loyalty out of your employees. They want to stay with a company where they're getting wellness benefits. So good health and wellness programs, they influence health outcomes. We want people to be healthier, right? So what produces our health outcomes? There's two big factors that go into this. The first is our genetics. We're born with a predisposition to certain diseases, conditions, ailments. Nothing we can do about that yet. Maybe sometime in the future we can get some of that taken care of. We can't do much about it right now, though. So we're set with those, not going to fix those. The other major factor, as you might have guessed, is our behavior. So what are you choosing to do on a day-to-day basis? Are you choosing to go to the gym? Are you choosing to stay sedentary in front of your desk all day? Are you choosing to eat donuts and then go to the gym? Pretend like it evens itself out? That has a massive impact on our health outcomes. So just because you're born with a predisposition to a certain disease does not mean that you can't beat it. In fact, John talked about it earlier. Our genes turn on and off depending on our behavior. So we can switch some of that bad stuff off. But we've got to focus on the behavior. The behavioral part's the only part we have any control over right now, so that's what we're going to focus on. How many of us have ever tried to quit smoking, lose weight, eat better, exercise more, et cetera, et cetera? Keep your hand up if you were massively successful in every attempt you've ever made. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way, and there's a good reason, there's a good scientific reason why it is pretty difficult for most of us, and it's because we're battling against consequences that are reinforcing, that are now, that are sure. Those are the most powerful kinds of consequences. So to demonstrate, I like cheeseburgers. Most people like cheeseburgers. Why do I like cheeseburgers? I like them because they taste good. I'm less hungry after I eat them. And I know that. I know they're delicious. I have lots of experience saying they're delicious, and they're delicious right now. In the long run, that puts me at more of a risk for things like heart disease, stroke, diabetes. But that happens so far down the road that it has zero impact on my day-to-day behavior. I just want a cheeseburger right now. I really could care less about the 10 years. On the other hand, the salad is a little less appealing than the cheeseburger. It's less satisfying, less delicious. But 10 years from now, I could be healthier, slimmer, fitter, less at risk for all sorts of things. Again, the right now consequence isn't good enough to motivate my behavior. I'd still rather have a cheeseburger. So the critical thing is, how do you make the healthy choices the more reinforcing ones, the easier ones? First step is we need to realize that antecedents don't work. How many of you are familiar with the DARE initiative? Most of us, okay. So it was an initiative that they did in public schools. They taught kids about drugs and alcohol in an effort to keep them from using them in the future. Just say no. The data says it was massively ineffective. There's basically zero effect from the DARE initiatives. And behavioral science would say, yeah, that makes sense. Antecedents don't drive behavior. Education doesn't drive behavior. If we all had to lose 10 pounds 2 weeks from now, we would all know the appropriate behaviors to get there. We know how to lose weight. We know more about what causes health disorders and diseases than we ever have before. We know it. That doesn't mean we're going to do it, though. We also need to realize that those natural consequences are not motivating enough. So I've seen a lot of initiatives that say, well, they'll continue to participate because they're going to feel better, they're going to look better, they're going to lose weight, they're going to have more exercise, they're going to feel great, they're going to have all this confidence, they're going to come bursting through the door at 6 a.m. They're going to love it. The problem is, those are all great consequences, and I hope they experience those. But the truth is, again, they're way too far removed from the actual health behavior. That's not going to get someone to go to the gym. If every time I went to the gym, I popped out 10 pounds lighter and just bursting full of energy, I would be there more often. And then I'd eat cheeseburgers and go back. Natural consequences just don't work for motivating behavior over the long term. So we start to talk about what we call extrinsic consequences. So most of the time we start to think about things like patting people on the back or giving them bonuses for participating in wellness programs. I'm not saying you have to pay people to participate. I think things like keeping each other accountable, having coaches to keep you accountable, recognizing the people who are being successful, I think those are great. Those are great motivators. The biggest motivation for me to keep on track with something is having a friend or my husband keeping track of whether or not I'm hitting my goals. It provides a very immediate consequence for me. So I may not be 10 pounds lighter after I go to the gym, but my husband says, great job. All right. Or I get hounded for not going. Works both ways. We also have to realize that we need to give consequences for behaviors and not results. We see this in safety a lot. We talk about leading and lagging measures. So in health, we talk about the lagging measure of losing weight. So we're going to give a prize to the person who loses the most weight. And what inevitably will start happening is that no one loses any weight for the first 2 months. The last month rolls around, and suddenly everyone's starving themselves, exercising with trash bags over their head to sweat out weight for the weigh-in. That's not what you want. That's not healthy in any way. It doesn't work. And so we have to get back to focusing on what are the leading behaviors. Well, leading behaviors would be reinforcing people for eating right, or for hitting step counts, having a step challenge, those kinds of things. The leading behaviors are really critical in this. One other place I see a lot of wellness initiatives lacking is in the data and feedback department. So there are a lot of wellness initiatives that, since they're easy to implement, we toss them out there, we give some education, they feel good, it feels like we're doing something in terms of health. That's great if you have data to tell me it did something. You've got to get the data. You have to know whether or not you're having an impact. And if you're not, you need to stop. Fail fast. Find something else that will work better. The feedback component is really important too. I've all too often seen wellness programs that people hate. They find them ridiculous, they find them patronizing, they find them hard to use, miserable. And unless you're asking and getting feedback, you can't make it better. And so getting engagement, getting feedback, and having the data to support your decisions in a wellness program is absolutely critical. So what drives success in a wellness program? It really comes down to impacting health behavior. You can't impact health behavior unless you have an understanding of behavior. That's where the behavioral science component is really, really important. With a good understanding of how the environment's driving behavior and how to strategically use consequences for the right stuff, you can absolutely have a wonderful wellness program that results in massive returns, not only monetary, but on all of the other good side effects as well. Thank you.